Welcome to Meet the Candidates. The Frankfort Plant Board is giving us an opportunity to talk with the candidates so you can get an idea of what the candidates are thinking about the issues that you're thinking about. So we're going to be hearing from Brent Sweger. Is that right?
You got the name right. Yeah.
Oh, good. I was a little hesitant because I have had several people talk about him with great enthusiasm, but they said his name 2 or 3 different ways, and so
that's right. Sweger is how you say it.
Brent Sweger, and you're running for a seat on the City Commission.
Correct.
And I know that you're very excited about this, so I want to ask you what you consider to be the major issues that are before the City Commission and would be coming up to the City Commission over this next term.
Oh, sure. Well, you know, the thing that is on a lot of people's mind right now, especially after yesterday's big event, is, you know, we had the implosion of the tower. And the question is, what's going back in place in the whole Capitol Plaza area? And that's a very important thing for our community. That's got to be the thing that we focus on the most as the City Commission, to make sure we get it right. And it's to make sure not that we just do a plan, but also have the mechanism to make sure that we follow through with the plan. We're notorious in Frankfort for making plans and then nobody being assigned to follow through and actually make it happen. So that's very important, and not just for our downtown, but really for the entire city. Downtown is the heart of our city, and we don't want to leave it up to chance, because we can there's a whole spectrum of things that could go there, but we want to make sure what goes back there is something that really brings good economic activity. It's attractive. It's attractive for people that live here as well as people that come to visit in Frankfort.
And I got so excited about having an opportunity to talk with you that I forgot that I really should ask you to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, your position in the community, and why you are willing to undertake such an enormous responsibility here.
Okay, sure. Well, I guess I'd like to start by saying I'm a father of 2 great sons. One is in middle school, the other in elementary, down at 2nd Street School. So they're a big part of my life, and a lot of my life revolves around them. Both their current, you know, what's going on in their lives, but also thinking about their future. I've lived in Frankfort almost my entire adult life, and I'm really vested in the community. I'm a state employee. I work for the Transportation Cabinet. I think I may be the first state employee to run for City Commission, because they changed the law allowing that a few years back, and just learned about that last year. I previously worked for the Federal Highway Administration, and that's what that job was an opportunity that allowed me to come to Frankfort in the first place. And I've been involved civically for over 20 years doing things for the community, things that I think are important to move Frankfort forward. I'm not someone new involved. Also, I'm a runner. I like to race, do 5Ks, 10Ks, mud races, adventure races. And what's neat is I've passed that enjoyment on to my sons, who have run cross country and are running track now. So I'm becoming more of a spectator, enjoying watching them participate in sports now. And
the next part of my question was, what really pushed you into trying to assume such a heavy responsibility as serving on the City Commission?
Well, you probably hear this answer from a lot of people, and it's true for me too, is that I love Frankfort. I think it's a great city, and I'll say that I chose to live here. I've had opportunity. I chose to live here initially, and I've had opportunities to move other places, but I've never left Frankfort, because I think it's a wonderful place. And now it's a great place, not just for me, but for my kids too. So that's important. But the other part that's driven me is that I've been frustrated with our local government. And it's not just this year, not just last year, but for years. We've done some good at the local government level, but what I've seen is time and time again, people getting elected that don't have a vision for Frankfurt. They don't have a way to move forward. And then when good ideas are presented to them, their eyes just glaze over and they do nothing with them. So after 20 plus years of being an advocate for so many things, I want to be there and help make the decisions and provide the leadership forward.
What do you see as being some of the things that we should be looking at developing? What do you think should be taking the attention and interest of City Commission members?
Well, I mean, clearly we've already talked about the Capitol Plaza redevelopment and then focus in downtown. I mean, that's so important. But one of the things that is, there needs to be a culture shift in how we do business in Frankfurt. And that's how we listen as a government, listen to people and engage people. And that's where we've seen a lot of conflicts happen over the years. And we've seen it at the plant board recently, where decisions have been made up in the Tanglewood area without involving the people that it affects the most, the people that are the customers and the people that live next to it. We've seen it with the Justice Center downtown. We've seen it with the Public Safety Building. Time and time again, decisions are being made behind closed doors. Sometimes, I'm not saying it's necessarily malicious, but it's done without engaging people. And people want to be a part of it. They want their voices to be heard and not to have to fight things after all these decisions have been made. So I want to listen as an elected official. I want to sit down and regularly hear from people. One of the things that our former county judge executive, Teresa Barton, used to do was have listening sessions once a month. She'd just open up the doors and whoever showed up and wanted to complain about this or suggest a good idea, she'd listen and she'd take down notes and see what she could do about those things. So I want to do the same thing, but it's not just me. We need to have it where all of our government, city staff, as well as I would like to see plant board staff and our commissions learn how to engage people and do it in an effective way so people are bought into the process. And then hopefully we'll have good results when we make public decisions.
I know one of the questions that's come up recently is appointments by the mayor. Do you think City Commission should have an oversight of those appointments? Or
well, my thought is that the City Commission votes on the people that are appointed, and I think that each appointment has a term limit, or it's a defined term, and I think the City Commission, all the commissioners and the mayor, needs to have the right information about the person before they're voted upon. But once they're voted in, unless there's a real problem, they should just move forward, and we don't have time to micromanage there's so many different boards and commissions that are under the purview of the city.
Well, speaking of which, plant board is, and that has been in the news a great deal lately. What was your opinion on the investigation of the plant board members? How did you see that as an issue?
Well, I don't know a lot of the details. However, I felt like the process was it didn't go the way I would have hoped it. I felt like jumping to hire an attorney to investigate board members so quickly was the wrong step. I think looking into what the issues were and trying to just work through it with dialogue or even some sort of mediation to try to come to some conclusion before spending $30,000 of taxpayer money to hire an attorney, I think that would have been a better avenue to try to address those issues.
If you're serving on the City Commission, do you have any proposals, any suggestions of how we can come to a resolution of this issue?
At this point, I don't. I think that the City Commission will see the results of the investigation, and I think really the issue will probably be taken care of even well before I take office. But so I'd have to see how it plays out over this next year to see if that's an issue that I have to deal with starting in 2019. So.
You mentioned development in the downtown area.
Sure.
Do you have any specific suggestions of what should be developed downtown and how we could go about it and where we would find funding, that sort of thing?
Sure. This is something I've put a lot of thought into. I'm involved in a group called Envision Franklin County, and this is something that we've focused in on for years, not just downtown, but all over Frankfurt. So we think about these things, we talk about these things, we study them. I'm not going to tell you I have all the answers. What they've hired the firm City Visions, that is a reputable firm, to come up with our plan. And what's great is so far they have reached out to lots of community members and community groups to try to get their input and ideas, because this has to be a community-based plan. It can't be the 5 people at the city commission making those complete decisions. They need to hear. And so I think the process seems to be working so far. However, there are some things that I think are needed, and I've seen some consensus. It seems like there's a lot of people talking this direction now, which is good. We need more residential development downtown. The more people you have living there, the more they can help support businesses, the current businesses, and possibly bringing in future businesses, such as restaurants. And we need to have a diversity of housing choices. Frankfurt really doesn't have a lot of condominiums. It'd be nice to have some downtown condominiums for people to live in. We need to have more apartments. A lot of the apartments that are downtown are great. They're in the historic buildings, but some people won't live in something like that. Some people want new types of construction. So we need more apartment choices. And
how do we go about getting those?
Well, I mean, it first comes out with we have to put a plan together. What do we want this to be? What is our vision for that area? And so where is this housing going to be? What should it look like? And then you start to build it piece by piece. I don't think this is going to be one single developer that does the whole redevelopment. I think it needs to be, just like our city has been traditionally, is you build it a piece at a time, or a few pieces at a time. You don't try to have that whole thing filled in the next 5 years. It's not sustainable to do it that way. So, and it also gives an opportunity for different people to put their own little touch on a development. Instead of everything looking monolithic, you have, maybe one person building a couple places here and another developer doing something here, and then, but you have some codes that bring it all and tie it all together. So residential certainly, but there's some other ideas that people want to float, and rightfully so, talking about the possibility of a replacement for the convention center.
What's your stand on that? Do we need another convention center, multi-use facility, or?
Yeah. I think that there is a need for something. What that is, I don't know. And it's something that we have to consider is what it's going to cost and what the benefits truly would be to doing it. It would have been great to preserve the convention center and build it, to rehab that and build onto it with meeting space around it. That wasn't the decision that was made. So now the question is, what's the new one? What is it that we really need? What's the cost of that? And are we willing to put up that cost? And that's a discussion, because it's competing with other community interests, other things that people want to see built. And there's only so much that we can do.
Well, you did mention earlier that development other than the immediate downtown area needed to be considered. Do you have any thoughts on what areas need attention and how we'd go about doing that?
Well, some of the most obvious things are, if you look around Frankfurt, we got some old shopping centers that are run down. They're mostly big parking lots. They're not being utilized, and they're not bringing in, frankly, much tax revenue. So if you focus some of the redevelopment of those areas, it can really improve how things look, how much more tax revenue we can bring in to do better things for our city. For instance, if you look at the shopping center where Big Lots and the Thai restaurant is, that's been sitting with a cracked up parking lot. And how many acres is that? It's huge. Sears on the other the Sears shopping center on the other side of Frankfurt. A lot of unused land there that could be redeveloped. And it would help not just that property, but the neighborhoods and the other properties that are around it.
What kind of steps do we take to see something done with that? How do we proceed to address that issue?
I don't have all the answers, but that has to be something that we set as goals. And once you start to make it a goal and start to say this is where we're going to put our energy, then we get the right people working on it. This may be something that our Economic Development Authority, the KCDC, puts their focus on in the future. So those are areas. I also see that there's been a lot of talk about improving the Home Street Corridor for years, and nothing has been done on that. And it's really a shame for everyone, especially the people that live there. It has a lot of potential. There are a lot of nice houses off of Home Street in those neighborhoods, but there's a lot that needs work on, and there's a lot of developable property through there. So working on that, getting the roadway improved, and it's only going to benefit everybody.
How do we find funding for all of these things?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm really impressed with our city manager, Cindy Steinhauser. I mean, she just came in, swooped in, and all of a sudden we got an $8 million grant from the federal government to move forward with the 2nd Street corridor. And it's amazing. She's built teamwork. She has people looking for funding opportunities. So it's going to be a combination of things. I'd say we have, of course, our general budget, but then we have grant opportunities. Partnerships, part of the 2nd Street is going to not just be done with the federal grant, but you'll have money coming, I believe, from the sewer department, or I think it's from the sewer department, but there's different partnerships with that. Anyway, it's not an easy answer, but when our minds are put to it, we can actually make it happen. And I think that's a good example right there. Mm-hmm.
Are there other issues you want to bring to our attention to start looking at?
Yeah. Yeah, I talked about, engaging people is so important. And then getting people involved on different boards and commissions. I'm afraid some of the things that have happened with the plant board has scared people. And if you've thought about getting onto, for instance, the planning commission or one of the other boards, is that you might think twice about it because you might get publicly attacked by, a city commissioner or the newspaper and that kind of thing. So we really need to find ways to get people that are qualified, people that have skills and want to serve their community, and reach out to them and encourage it and know that it's a safe place, but then also prepare them and train them. I've served on the Planning Commission. I've served on the Board of Zoning Adjustments, and when I did, I was thrown in, and there was very little training that got me prepared to do that. Even though I've been studying a lot of the planning issues, I was a little bit ahead compared to most appointees. It was just, it takes you a long time to figure out how things operate, what the rules are, and that kind of thing. So preparing people and getting good people on boards and commissions. Mentioned Capitol Plaza, better development. Just we talked a little bit about locations. I think improving our housing choices is one, and we need to really revamp our zoning code. It's outdated and it's ineffective, and cities all over this country are moving to a totally different model. I won't get wonky and try to get into the details on that, but we can do so much better with our development, but our zoning code is holding us back on a lot of that. I want to make sure we don't forget about, we're talking a lot about downtown, but I also want to make sure that we're not forgetting about all the other neighborhoods around the city. We need to invest in them. We need to continue to do these investments in, we have a grant program at the city now for the exterior of homes. Look for other neighborhoods that might be needing that type of grant program with them. We need to look at calming traffic. I've started walking neighborhoods, and of course I've been around the whole city over the years, and there's a lot of streets where they're designed to carry cars, and people drive so fast, and it's where kids are out there playing, and it's dangerous. I mean, there was a child that was hit several years ago, and it was because of somebody speeding through a neighborhood. So we need to have a traffic calming program at the city to try to get cars to slow down in neighborhoods. And then just finding ways to beautify different neighborhoods too, I think is important. And then you asked me about how do we pay for all this. One of the things that we need to do a better job of, and this is something I've pushed for years, and it hasn't happened, is we need to have a long-range master plan. We need to think about what are the things that we want to accomplish over the next 10 years, how are we going to pay for it, and which ones are our priorities, or what are the priority order. There's so many things that we want to do. I think we need to look at a swimming pool on the east side of town. The wonderful park up at Juniper Hills is crowded in the summertime. There's a waiting line to get in there. So we need just, we could go revisit East Frankfort, where there used to be a swimming pool, and see about putting in another swimming pool. It doesn't have to be something fancy like the water park, but to give people on the east side of town some recreational opportunities. But working in that, or the future of City Hall, or our fire station, or work on Home Street, all these things, you can't do it all at once. You have to think about it. And too often we're just living by the seat of our pants. Who's in office right now will drive what gets done this year or next year.
Well, of course, one of those things is the current issue on the pensions. Have you had a chance to look into any of that? How do you think it's going to affect the city budget of trying to deal with the problem of not taking care of the pension issues to this point?
Well, this is near and dear to me. I'm a state employee, and so I am vested in the pension system. And I've also been an active board member on the Kentucky Transportation Employees Association. And we have taken a lead in terms of representing state employees, even though it's for transportation employees. And we've been partnering with other groups, retiree groups, labor unions, city and county workers, and teachers to try to fight against this pension reform that really is not needed. It's the state really needs to put more money into the pension issue. So the issue is important to me, and I think it's obviously hitting the city and the county really hard right now. It's going to affect their budget quite a bit because of how much they're going to be required to put in to the system. So it's not easy. I know the city is grappling with that right now. I think part of what we need to do is become our own advocates. When these issues are being out there in front of the state legislature, we need to have some of our local leadership fighting for the interests of the city.
You have come so well prepared. Are there some issues that we haven't touched on that you feel we really need to cover quickly?
I don't think there's any other issues. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk anymore about some of my advocacy or some of the things that I've worked on over the years. We have a couple of minutes left. So. Okay. I'll try to be relatively quick. I'm one of the founders of Walk Bike Frankfort, and I've been a leader in that organization for years. We've led efforts to build the US 421 trail. We got the highway design changed with that to accommodate that, to get the Riverview Trail built, the Schenkel Lane sidewalks, and sidewalks all over the community put in. That kind of work wasn't being done 10 years ago, so we've really done a lot there. And then I've served on the Women's Shelter Board, Franklin County Women's Shelter, and I was on there for 4 years when we acquired the first building and hired the first full-time executive director. And
I know you have a long list of accomplishments there, and I'm sorry that we are running out of time. Sure. But would you please look in that camera and tell our viewers
Yeah.
Specifically, why are you the best candidate? Why should they vote for you?
Well, I think that you'll see this year, this is sort of a turning point, is that with all the issues regarding pensions and then some of the controversial things that have come up at the city, that you'll see a lot of people that are out running for office at the state level and at the local level. And of course, these things concern me, and the issues concern me, and it's great to see new people running for office. I'm running for office for the first time, but it's because I've been involved with the city and civic issues and community issues for 20 years, and I have a proven track of leadership and of effectiveness, and I really want to bring that to our city commission.
Brent Sweger, thank you very much for coming in to talk with us, and I'd like to encourage our viewers to come back for more Meet the Candidates.